All right, greetings from the Dark Continent. Conscious Caracal here, or Adams van Sail. And tonight I'm joined by Ian Cameron, the head of community safety at AfriForum, and also Marnus Kamfer, a firearms expert, lawyer, and head of legal and risk at AfriForum Community Safety. And tonight, firstly, we're going to start off by talking about their new website that they've launched, firearms.co.za, what exactly you can expect to find there, and what makes the website unique and worth your time, and also the petition that is connected to it. But then also we will be getting into firearm safety, and if you are interested in acquiring a firearms license, why you shouldn't be fearing the large amount of admin that you surely know that is involved with it. So yeah, welcome to the show, Ian and Marnus.
Thanks, Ernst.
Thank you, Ernst.
All right. So let's start off with the website itself. When did it launch, and what gave you this idea that this is something that you wanted to do?
So probably about 5-6 months ago, we were actually just a bunch of friends talking about it, and we decided we need to create a platform where we can talk about everything concerning guns. So obviously, there's quite a bit of stuff that you can speak about with regards to training, with regards to how to obtain a license, competency, all of those things. But I think although there are many platforms and many great platforms to where these things are written and where the whole gun debate is placed on, we just wanted to invite people that have a passion for firearms, that might sound weird, get excited about firearms, have a place where they can read all about it, whether it's guides or hints or tips or how-to processes. We wanted to create a place where people can read anything about guns. So that's how it started. But then the whole amnesty debate started, and the whole question whether the government is trying to disarm people. And obviously, it's important to say, I mean, both Marnus and I work for AfriForum. So if we take it from an AfriForum perspective, obviously, we also feel very strongly about the fact that people shouldn't be disarmed. And AfriForum has taken a very strong stand in that regard. And I mean, from Marnus' side, he's the legal expert in terms of firearms, and he's really made his voice heard about it. And I'll give him a chance to speak about it later. But I think we then decided to launch a petition, which we have done. And in just over a week, it's already got 6,000 signatures on it. And it's kind of snowballed very quickly. So that's in short, that's just a summary about it. So for now, it's actually just a petition. There's 1 or 2 articles on there, and it's developing. But we started it with the petition, and yeah, it's growing from there.
Mm. And now specifically the site being so new, and you thought this was a very good idea. What makes it unique are there any other sites like it already for the South African audience, or is this something new on the scene that people can use, and firearm experts and firearm enthusiasts will welcome in regards to the type of information and the content that will be found there?
Yeah, well, I hope so. I think our aim is not to infringe on what anyone else is doing. It's literally to add value. And if it's a platform where different gun owners, organizations, whether it's GOSA or professional hunters, regardless, would like to write something and use it as a general platform, we can discuss that and we can see how it can be done. If it's a platform where people want to speak about buying and selling firearms, they can do that. Whether it is about understanding the type of training that you can get, or seeing reviews about firearms or ammunition or other accessories that you can buy, then we can implement that. The point is just it is a easy access type of platform where you really can create an online firearm community. And the nice thing about it is that there's nothing bureaucratic about it. This is literally a group of friends that are that are coincidentally colleagues as well, that started it, and we feel strongly about the cause, and we've decided to develop this for the cause, and it's a good opportunity. Marnus, I don't think maybe you should add about the legal side and about what we're gonna talk about in terms of legalities on the site and what the future holds.
Yes, gladly. Thank you, Ian. Ernest, there's so much disarray, and unfortunately, the Minister of Police made no secret about it. He simply said he dreams of a South Africa where the only people with guns is the police service and the military, and that's that's simply absurd. Taking the current South Africa into mind. So what they do, because remember there was this whole debacle over this alleged draft that leaked at the stage where they wanted to take away Section 13 and 14 in the Act that they grants you permission to have a firearm for self-defense purposes. And the outcry that happened after that made them silent for a few months after that. But now they have this whole new strategy, and that is simply to cause confusion and to throw people into disarray with regards to firearms. Excellent example is the matter of the green and the white licenses. Which one is legal and which one is not? And the people are so confused that they simply say, listen, give me an amnesty period. I'm not going to go through this. I'm going to hand in my weapon. I'm going to get this out of my life. I'm not going to take chances. And one of the main focuses of the website will be us just putting out articles and, like Ian said, creating this community just to give people certainty in uncertain times. If they have questions with regards to the legality of something or to the administrative side of something, we simply want to put it out there and show them that it is not so hard. We want to write things, and we want to write the legislation and the current affairs in plain language, so anyone can understand it. And by doing that, assist people by keeping their weapons, keeping their family safe. And if we go to the sporting activities and hunting, obviously it's a very big economic injection in South Africa, and we want people to enjoy that as well. In the end, it is good for everyone.
And before I continue, I just want to inform people that a link to the website and the petition is in the description. So if you want to go support them, you can just click there after the show, or even open it up in a new tab while you're listening now. But maybe, Marnus, because you touched on something very important there, this whole people have this idea that it's a legal and administrative nightmare if they want their license for a firearm. What are the type of hoops that you're going to have to jump through to get your license, and what are the things that are going to take a bit of time, and what are some misconceptions in regards to this?
It's a lot like studying. When you need to start studying for a subject, it's very intimidating until you start. And when you start with it, you see, okay, the next thing follow the first one, and when you rub your eyes out, it's finished and over, and you're ready to write the exam. It's the same with the firearms. It looks intimidating, but we're going to put articles with steps, 5 steps to acquiring your competency certificate, 5 steps to acquiring your handgun license, to make it as easy as possible for the people to understand and to follow through. So the first thing is, unfortunately, there is an exam that must be written, a theoretical one and a practical one, that must be done at the accredited institution. When one follows through with that, and it's actually very interesting and great fun, especially for people who like firearms. You get a certificate. With that certificate, you can go to the police station, apply for your competency certificate. If you have your competency certificate, you can go to a shop where you'd like to buy your weapon of choice. When you identify the weapon, they will assist you with the application itself, and boom, that's the process. It's pretty much as easy as that. I think the big problem is, and people don't like that, is the waiting factor, because unfortunately we work with the South African Police Services. There's a lot of, and Ian talks about it a lot. There's a lot of great guys in the station that wants to work with the community, but unfortunately, when it moves through the administrative system, the police are not known for their efficiency there at this stage. So unfortunately, one has to wait approximately 3 months for the competency certificate, and then an additional 3 months for the license. So it's quite a long waiting period, but we'll put it in the articles as well. Utilize this time in a productive manner. While you're waiting for your competency certificate, do some nice homework with regards to the weapon you'd like to purchase. What differences the weapon prove to each other, which one will be best suited for you. Go to the relevant gun shops and then hold one or shoot with one and make an informed choice. So when your competency certificate lands, you know exactly what you'd like to do and what you'd like to buy, and you buy it, and then it's a waiting game. And in that last few months waiting for your license, you can once again do further research with regards to the weapon you bought. And when you rub your eyes out, you're the proud owner of a weapon.
So you're basically saying your best advice for someone that is interested in getting their firearms license is to just take the first step, to just start, and it will get easier from there.
That sums it up perfectly. Just start, and just keep your eye on firearms.co.za. We're going to really try and make it as easy as possible. We're going to try and answer the queries as soon as possible. And once again, we're going to try and make the legislation and the current affairs as plain as possible so everyone can understand.
And now, Ian, on your website, will there be contact details for people that maybe don't want to just read articles, but want to talk to someone through correspondence, whether that be an email or calling someone or some type of helpline? Will there be a way to contact people through this website?
Yeah, so we've already started using it. It actually kind of exploded. We thought that we'd get a question here and there, but we've been flooded with questions and inquiries, which is great. And it's fantastic to know that we've now got a platform that we can actually use like this. So yeah, there's an email address that is info@firearms.co.za, and people can reach us there. And what we do is that we can't answer every single question. It's not like we know everything. Marnus thinks he does, but we don't. And what we do is that we can send the inquiries to the correct service provider and make sure that they can assist if we don't know the answer. So that's what we've already done, and for now it's working. I mean, we've been testing it now for a week, and it's gone much further than a test. We really do get a lot of inquiries. So it's a very positive step in the right direction. I think the important thing, Aaron, for now, it's simply a way that we can refer people to the right place and give a little bit of advice. But I already see it developing to a point where we will most likely start providing some of those services, just because there's such a dire need for some of the services that involve firearms. I don't think people realize the amount of passionate firearm owners that we have in the country. There really are a lot of law-abiding firearm owners in South Africa, and it's very important that we create platforms, regardless if it's firearms.co.za or not, that we create platforms where these individuals can find a sense of community. And I'm not just talking about a gun association or a gun owners association. I'm really speaking about a place where when you come home, you're looking forward to the time you can spend in your community. And what a better place than to do it on an online community where you don't necessarily have to leave. And you can, it sounds terrible, but you can perv about the guns on the internet and just enjoy it. So yeah, that's just a short overview.
Mm-hmm. And then I think something that's a broader theme with this discussion is this whole idea that a lot of people have, that they don't need a gun, they will never need it, it's not going to, or they're going to just procrastinate it. One day they will get their license, but no, they don't have time at the moment. And I want to answer from both of you in this regard. If you had to convince someone why it is important to have a firearm, whether that be a young or an old person, a male or a female, your short summary in regards to why it's so important to get your firearm license and to have a firearm. We can start with you, Ian, and then Marnus, you can give your answer as well.
Cool. Well, it's simple. I'm probably going to steal some of Marnus's points now, but I think he's used to that. So we summarized it in 9 simple steps, or 9 simple reasons why we believe that every single law-abiding citizen should be allowed to carry a gun in South Africa and should be carrying a gun in South Africa. So the first principle that we feel very strongly about is that if you can defend yourself, then you can defend your family. And once you can defend your family, you can defend your neighbors. And when neighbors start defending each other, they defend their communities. So it's quite simple. If you as an individual are defending yourself, and you can start having this ripple effect where it starts moving out to the people around you and they start looking after each other. You're basically creating safer communities as a whole. Regardless of, for example, neighborhood watch involvement or patrolling in the community, there's a sense of community in terms of people taking ownership of their own safety. And then just 2 or 3 more points is that the South African government in most cases have actually failed their constitutional mandate to really safeguard citizens and their property. And it's important that if there is a violent attack, on you or your family or loved ones, that you are able to defend yourself, and that you've got a fair chance to defend yourself. Because unfortunately, at the moment, violent crime is occurring in a way that the case number that you get is often actually just a reference number. There's nothing proactive happening in terms of policing on a large scale where these violent crimes are being stopped before they occur. And then the last part is that whether it's police or security, in most cases, there aren't really enough members or resources to make sure that they are there all the time. And therefore, you have to create your own, fresh reality to handle this. Let's talk about gender-based violence as an example. It's a new buzz, or they are buzzwords happening, and we don't need to get into the merit of it, but it's simple. If you've got a well-trained, law-abiding female that could have been a victim without a firearm, you now have someone that can equal the playing field against someone that holds some form of a threat to that female possible victim. And now when you're empowering someone that might have been considered weaker by a violent attacker, he or she will very quickly be brought to the new reality that you've got people that are able to defend themselves. So, that's just some of the reasons that we really believe every person should own a firearm.
Marnus, anything you want to add to Ian's reasons?
Yes, I think he touched upon most of the reasons, but I'm going to put it quite bluntly. If you love your family, you love yourself, you should get the firearm. This is South Africa, and there's this terrible question that one never wants to ask himself, and that is, what if? What if I had a firearm when they broke into my house and hurt my children or my wife, and I never went through the trouble to get the firearm to be in the best position to defend him? Remember, there's a big part in the law, and people will tell each other, listen, remember, the law is on the side of the criminal, and if you shoot someone, you will be prosecuted immediately for murder.
You shoot 10 warning shots before you can shoot the attacker in the toe.
Yes, I'm so glad you touched upon that point, because a warning shot is the most terrible idea ever. You see a guy that's busy attacking your wife or your children, and you decide to first shoot 3 warning rounds into the air, and your poor neighbor standing outside having a braai takes the brunt of it, and he's being shot, and he never did anything. So please, a warning shot is something we all should forget. If the law is quite clear, if there's a clear imminent attack on someone's life or your life, and the only way to stop that attack is by force, you may utilize that force as long as it's appropriate. It's a very simple story I always tell the people just to bring it home. But if a 12-year-old is at your grandfather's cuckoo clock and he's going to break it, you can't take your shotgun and shoot him to protect the cuckoo clock, because it's just not appropriate. But if someone attacks your wife or your children with a knife or a weapon, please go for it. Get rid of the guy, protect your family. So if the law makes provision for that, and we work with people a lot that's not prosecuted when they act in self-defense, and in the rare instances where they are prosecuted, they walk 99% of the time. Unfortunately, sometimes people misuse the self-defense, and they shoot someone in the back 5 times, or from a distance of 200 meters, and then they want to say, listen, it was self-defense. Then it gets a little gray, and that person will probably not succeed with it. But it is engraved into the law, and it works on a very regular basis. So why not have that weapon and be ready to defend yourself and your family if and when the time comes?
Ian, you want to add something there?
I think that summarizes it. It's just simple. We need to take responsibility for our safety, and what a better way than training yourself with a firearm. And this doesn't mean that firearms or the responsibility that goes about it should be taken lightly, because a firearm isn't a toy, and it's something you need to act very responsibly with, because innocent people can get hurt if you are irresponsible with a firearm. And it's a crucially important part to recognize. But that being said, is a simple saying that we've heard over and over again. It's just like spoons don't make people fat. Firearms don't kill people. People kill people. And it's the same principle. So people don't need to be scared of firearms. They need to be cautious of the way they handle firearms. They need to train themselves, educate themselves on them. And then they need to arm themselves. And they need to be ready for that possible imminent threat that they might face. And then it's simple, and it's something that, in terms of firearms at Sierra Zeta, we very firmly believe in, is that when the police don't answer, your gun will.
Right. And then a question that either of you can answer, or both of you. Seeing as this stream is titled that the ANC wants to disarm more South Africans, and this is a trend we've been seeing. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not just speculation. It seems very clear that the ANC wants less and less firearms in the hands of legal citizens, even though, as someone noted in the comments, I don't think one criminal has handed in their firearm during the lockdown. Do you have any idea why the ANC or the government is taking this stance? Why they are not? I mean, for me, it would be the most obvious thing to take a pro-gun stance in a high-crime society like South Africa, and saying we as the government will make sure as many people can legally arm themselves as possible, to not only relieve pressure on the police, but also to just let people have a better chance of defending themselves. Why are we seeing this trend, do you reckon?
Marnus, I think you should answer first, and then I'll take it from there.
Honestly, I think it's quite clear. The problem is, on the one hand, the police wants to tell us, listen, Section 205 of the Constitution states that we must protect you, but we cannot do that. And by words of the National Commissioner and the Minister, this happened, I think last year or 2 years ago, that they simply said, sorry, we cannot protect you as citizens of this country anymore. After that, their budget gets cut with billions of rands coming the next few years. So that destroys the few resources they have as well. And the resources they have at their immediate disposal, they simply refuse to utilize. We can use the police reservists, who are people that work free of charge and with a glad heart, and it's trained people, and they really made a difference. They simply are not utilized anymore. They fell to an amount of 7,000 reservists, if I'm not mistaken, is left on active duty. One looks at the dogs at the Roodeplaat K9, where lots of dogs died of the parvovirus. And the reason for that is simply they don't have biosecurity there, they don't clean up, and they don't give the dogs the necessary injections. 14 of the dogs died again now in the last 2 days. So what do they need to do now? They need to divert the attention away from them. And now they sit around the table and say, but remember, there are certain crimes that happens with the criminals utilizing a firearm. Let's focus on the firearm and say that is the main reason for the crime. So I think it's a diversion just to move everything away from them, and try to have the people focus on firearms because some crimes are committed with them. It's ludicrous, but it's true.
I see we lost your video feed there. Are you still there? Okay, looks like Ian is having a little bit of a technical difficulty there. So, Marnus, I think you can answer the next thing that I wanted to know as well. it's actually something that I think you will be able to answer best, and that is where we are standing with this gun amnesty, the status of this gun amnesty debacle. It seems that's just unfolding and getting worse and worse. Where are we currently? Can you help us om hierdie kraainest te ontkoek?
Ernst, yes. I think I must just give a little bit of background. I'm going to do it as fast as possible. And I've seen in the comments there are some questions about that as well. A long time ago, in 1969, an act was promulgated named the Arms and Ammunition Act 75 of 1969. And it was simpler times with regards to firearm licensing. And the older generation will remember what I'm talking about now, is you had a green card when you applied for a license, and it was put in your ID book, or you had a green card, and that is commonly referred to now as the green license. And it made it easy because you have this license now, and there's no renewal period on it. The only time you'll ever work with it again is if you sell the firearm or if you die, and the firearm is in your estate and is bequeathed to someone else. Then in the year 2004, everything changed. Because then the new legislation came out, the Firearms Control Act 60 of 2000, and the licenses issued in terms of that act is white little cards. And that's why they call them the new white licenses. But in 2004,
you mentioned earlier the green and the white licenses confusing people.
Exactly. And in 2004, they said, listen, Schedule 1 of this new act states, if you are the owner or holder of a green license, you have 5 years to convert that green license to the new white license. And unfortunately, 5 years went by, and in 2009, hundreds and thousands of gun owners sit with this green license, and it was not converted, and there was chaos. So South African hunters and wild conservation went to court and told the court, listen, with this Schedule 1, we're not happy with it. This should go to the Constitutional Court. You can't one-sidedly tell people, listen, sorry, you need to convert your license. We want to challenge it in the Constitutional Court. Will you, in the meantime, judge, grant us an interim order stating that the holders of green licenses are in legal possession of their firearms pending the main application? And the judge said, yes, I will give you that interim order. That is, now it's 11 years later. And that main application never served in front of the court. So in other words, the interim order still stands. So if you are the owner of a green license, you are deemed to be in valid possession of your green license firearms. Now it happened, Section 24 of the new Act, 60 of 2000 states that if you want to renew your license, and I'm talking about the people who then converted their licenses or people who applied for new licenses under the new Act. Now, depending on what firearm license you have, you have 5 years, and for sport shooting and hunting, it's 10 years, and then you must renew that license. But Section 24 say you must renew that license 90 days before it expires. And unfortunately, most of the people are used to not renewing a gun license. It's absurd. And the other people simply forget about it. And then they go to the police and say, I'm out of my 90 days or my license already lapsed. Can I apply for a renewal? Then the police simply say, sorry, it's not provided for, we cannot assist you. And now that person is in possession of a illegal firearm because that license lapsed now.
And now they're a criminal.
That's exactly, and you don't even know it. Then there was I'm not going to go into the full detail, the technical aspects, but in 2018, the police said, hey, you guys with the licenses that lapsed, we're coming for you. We're going to arrest you for illegal possession and so forth. It was chaos in the country. Because remember, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. And then Gun Owners of Africa brought an application to court and said, listen, we think there is area in legislation for the police to consider if you are out of your 90 days or your gun lapsed, that you can give reasons for it. Because as let's say I go and work in America for 3 years. It's not possible for me to renew my license from America, or I was in a sick bed for 2 years. And when I got up, I immediately went to try and renew my license. So there must be leverage for people to say, listen, here's the reason why I'm late. Please consider it and give me my renewal of my license. But they said once again, pending the main application of us fighting this, give us another interim order stating that when your license lapsed as a white license, you are still deemed to be in valid possession thereof. And in July 2018, the judge once again said, yes, we will give you an interim order to the effect. So now there's 2 existing interim orders stating that even though you have an old green license, you are still deemed to be in legal possession of that firearm. And the new white license that lapsed, the interim order also states on another occasion that you are also deemed to be in legal possession of that firearm. Now the problem is, once, or let's say in 2 weeks' time, in a year's time, 3 years' time, who knows? These applications might once again serve in front of court. And then that court, with the right jurisdiction, can change the interim order. They can amend it, they can make it permanent, or they can simply destroy it, if I can use that word, and say, listen, it's blown out of the water, it doesn't exist anymore. And then that person might be in a conundrum, might have a little problem. And that's why they then gave the amnesty and said, listen, if you do not want to see what the outcome is of the cases, if you like, you can come and give your firearm to the police. You don't have to reapply for the license. Then we're simply going to destroy the weapon. But Section 139, subsection 4, if I'm not mistaken, states in the Act that you will have the chance to reapply from afresh for the license. And that's where people say, I'm not going through this again. Take the firearm, I'm finished. But some people used the amnesty and said, here's the firearm, I'm going to reapply from afresh, and after my license application is considered and it's granted, I'll simply come and get the firearm again. So we want people to have that choice. People can decide to see what happens in the litigation, but people can also use the amnesty should they choose to do so. It is a personal choice, and that's what we're fighting for. We want people to have that personal choice. No one should tell them how to go about it. They can decide for themselves. And unfortunately, people were unsure again, disarray again. The information was scarce. It was contradictory to each other. And just when they had some idea whether they would like to use this amnesty period or not, it happened that the lockdown came into effect. And then in level 5 and 4, they were not allowed to move to the police stations to reapply for their licenses and so forth, because it's not deemed a good enough reason to move. And then on the 31st of May, it was the end of the amnesty. But we've put a lot of pressure on the minister, and luckily it seems like the new amnesty period will be in August if all goes well. Unfortunately, it's a very long process, and people usually ask and say, why can't it happen that the minister can simply by on its own extend the amnesty period? Why does it have to take so long? And the Act is there to blame. Section 139, subsection 1 states that the amnesty must be promulgated by way of a notice in the government gazette. And subsection 2 says that notice can only be published if Parliament granted it and said it's fine, you can publish it. So the minister had to go through a whole route, putting the relevant documentation in order, putting the letter, writing to the Speaker, National Council of Provinces, and to the committees. But luckily, we're at the stage now where the committee said, listen, yes, it seems like we'll grant you that power to promulgate another amnesty period, but this still needs to be referred back to the National Council of Provinces and the National Assembly now for final consideration. So it's a long process, but we're looking at August. So sorry for that long story, Ernest. I just wanted to give a short background to help and put the people and to make the disarray and the confusion a little better.
Right. Well, I'm seeing Ian is back now. He got his technical difficulties sorted, but Ian, you don't have to worry. Marnus gave a lot of interesting information while you were away. I see here just a quick question before Ian, you give your answer before you left. That question about why the government seems to be so anti-gun and wants less people with firearms rather than more. I just see here here's a question that relates to what you just said, Marnus. Someone in the chat asks, why can people renew their car license but not their gun licenses? Isn't that a bit crazy?
That's excellent, and I like to use that as well. And it once again just show that they are a little ludicrous. And I think in the main application that will be argued by GOZA soon, hopefully, the advocate for GOZA will ask that and say, if you're late with a car license application, you simply pay a fine, but you can still get your license. In firearm legislation, Section 24 simply says 90 days. If you're out of your 90 days, tough. So that's an excellent comment from. Well done.
Yeah. Okay, Ian. So before you had your technical difficulties, the Marnus answered the question in regards to why the government seems to be wanting less legal firearm owners rather than more. What is your take on that? Why are we seeing this trend? I mean, it seems a bit strange, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all. If we go and look at government itself in terms of, for example, firearms that it's lost or firearm competency, I remember the last proper, I spoke with Jerm about it the other day, the last proper internal audit that was done about firearms on not only firearms, but training inside the police. It was really an overview of the functionality inside the police, specifically with regards to training. It was shocking to see that at that stage, this was around 2011, 2012, if I'm not mistaken, 47% of cops that carry guns in the Eastern Cape weren't competent to do so. So first, I must come up for them in the one side and also say that it could be that they didn't have their competency because there was not enough ammunition for them to do their training shoot. So let's just say that side, that it doesn't come up one-sided. A lot of those guys, I think, and ladies are great cops, and we need to acknowledge that. But if that were to happen with a normal civilian, why is there this double standard? So that's the first side. The other part is I really do believe that there's a strong sense of opposition inside the ANC specifically, that they don't want law-abiding citizens to be armed because it supposedly poses a threat to them. I think the ANC flourishes with crime as a huge problem in South Africa. I think criminal activity generates massive amounts of tax money that is being paid by, for example, security firms, and the list goes on. I honestly think that crime in many cases has become a money-making scheme for the ruling party. And I'm making crazy allegations, and they can do what as they see.
Speculation. I mean, we need to try and speculate and try and figure out why they are doing these strange moves and why they.
Yeah,
I mean, to us, it's something as common sense to have as many legal firearm users as possible in the country, but that's not the case, and we need to get to the bottom of it, even if it is just speculation.
And I would like to, just color in on that a little bit more. Is that it would actually benefit them. It's logical that it would benefit them to have more people that own firearms and that abide by the law in the country. So it just would never make sense that they would say we don't want people with guns. And then you listen to clown organizations like Gun Free SA, and you listen to someone like Adele Kirsten, who's got armed response for her house, but she doesn't support legal gun ownership in the country. The interesting thing is that a lot of these people that say these things, let's take Bheki Cele. Do you think he would visit
a place like Diepsloot, like he did recently, without armed protection? No, he wouldn't. And then he would probably say, yeah, but if there were no guns, he would go. I'm telling you today, Marnus and I was at a riot today. And
yeah, we'll talk about that now.
None of the people we saw there, Marnus, maybe I'm wrong, maybe you saw a few guns, but I didn't see any guns. So they could have had guns. But the point is, it was a dangerous situation,
Yes.
potentially dangerous situation without guns. So using a gun as the supposed argument is wrong. If you go to a place like the Cape Flats, there are a massive amount of shootings, but there are also a massive amount of stabbings. What are we going to do? Stop selling bread knives now because people stab people. There's a problem with the moral fiber.
You're going to have to stop selling screwdrivers as well.
Exactly, and pencils because they make spelling mistakes.
Yeah. But now, before you go on, Ian, just in terms of stats, I might be wrong, but aren't more people killed by other means in firearms, the majority of murders in South Africa, or is the majority of murders by firearms?
So the majority of murders, it depends. And this is the thing that Gun Free SA does. So
yeah, that's why I'm asking, because that's one of the popular anti-gun points.
Yeah, so they would say the majority of murders, and then they would say this huge amount is done by guns. But what you need to go and do, you need to say that guns might be one of the causes that is quite large. But if you compare that to all the other types of murders that you get, when someone is hacked to death with a machete, beaten to death, stabbed, strangled, like the list goes on. There are many more cruel ways that they do things in this country. All of those things collectively are way more than guns. I think a gun is a very simple way of possibly killing someone, but it's also a very simple way of defending yourself. So it's a ludicrous argument by ridiculous organizations about something that they themselves need. You know, the interesting thing is, if someone like Adele Kirsten or anyone from Gun Free SA, I shouldn't even speak about them because I think they're just a sideshow organization looking for attention. But if one of those people are in an armed robbery tonight, I guarantee you, the first thing, if she prays to anyone, the first thing she would pray to any god is for someone with a gun to arrive for her to be saved. And isn't it like that with everyone? We want someone that can overpower the criminal in any way possible to defend you because there is an imminent threat on your life or the life of your family.
Yeah, you don't want someone to come to your rescue bringing a knife to a gunfight.
Exactly.
I see a comment here. Ian, Sideliner Opinion says Ian got his broadcasting license back.
Yeah, I got it back after it was expropriated without compensation.
Yeah. So yeah, something that I wanted to talk about is, and you mentioned it there, is your actions today in regards to you were helping out the community with a land grab situation there. Could you maybe elaborate on that, Ian?
Yeah, sure. In fact, I'll try just now, if you would allow
just
me.
Maybe as a footnote, you helped the community with a land grab that Cyril Ramaphosa says aren't happening in South Africa.
Yeah, exactly. As we speak, I'm actually sending you some photos that you're more than welcome to show some of the viewers with regards to the specific land grab. It started, I'm going to give it over to Marnus just now, but just to give you an idea, is that we've been flooded with land grabs over the past 2 weeks. It's literally just shot through the roof, and I don't know what exactly triggered it, but there are way more of them. So the interesting thing is this specific land grab happened, or we were contacted about 2 weeks ago, Marnus, and the community said to us, look, we don't know what to do anymore. The Red Ants have been here before. They have come to remove structures, but we still see a huge amount of structures being erected, and the amount of areas being cleared, stands being cleared for them to build on was massive. In fact, I would go as far as saying there were probably more than 400 stands that were cleared. I mean, we drove through there today. It's shocking the amount of poles that they have put up to cordon off some of the spaces that they have now that they wanted to occupy. So it really is a major worry. And
this was south of Johannesburg, right?
Yeah, it's not far from Lenasia, close to the Grasmere Plaza. And and so we then went to court. And I think, Marnus, if you could, I can explain it, but I think it's better that you explain it. How does that process work when it comes to getting a court order for a land grab? And is it a simple process? Is it not? I think you're the best one to explain it.
Yeah, it's quite. That's why we usually tell the people, make it as difficult as possible for people to do a land invasion or a land grab, and if it happens, call us immediately, so we can give you the right information of what to do and how to do it. Because these people was, like Ian said, very frustrated because they went to the police station at the Deer and said, "Listen, there's people invading our land. Help us." And the police declined. They didn't want to open a case. They didn't want to open a docket and give them a cash number. And luckily, they contacted us soon enough, because the frustration is, according to the standard work procedure and the directive of the police services, they need to go out and they need to tell the invaders, listen, you're busy with trespassing. It's a criminal offense. You need to move. And if the people do not want, now the frustration that follows is these people start erecting structures. If that structures are erected and that people move in, it's hell to get them out. Because there's a difference between a land invader and a land occupier. A land occupier is a person that starts living on the land in a structure. And then the process to follow can take months to years to get that person out. But if the landowners, like in this instance, act soon enough, give us the relevant information. It was a little challenging at times because we're talking about 40 to 50 plot owners in that area, but the community stood together and they gave us the information we needed. We went to court on an urgent basis. It took some of our sleep away for 2 days, but luckily the application was successful. And when we had that court order, one needs to work with it as soon as possible once again, because the people cannot be allowed to occupy that property, because then it's going to get really difficult. But like Ian said, luckily things worked out fine, and this huge operation happened today, and the community is put back in possession of the properties.
And then also, Ian, in terms of what's happened there today, it was the community that contacted you, right?
Yeah. So this is the thing I think that makes this unique, is that this wasn't just one farm or one property. This really was a whole list of properties, as Marnus has also explained, and this made it a little bit more complicated. The problem that we have in that specific area is that they are surrounded by other properties that have been taken by force already. So they already have a problem in that region, and unfortunately it seems to be a growing one. So they need to be very alert in how they act and when they act and how they're going to do this in the future, because I really think property rights in the south of Johannesburg, around the Lenasia area, are being threatened. And I think this is a long-term threat. Marnus would agree with me that strategically it's a very difficult place that you need to combat this, and these people are hostile. It is not, people often think that land grabbers and the nonsense perception that is created, especially by certain political parties, is that you've got a group of disadvantaged people that feel very sorry for themselves and everyone else feels sorry for them, and they are now desperately looking for land. If you spend time at some of these land grabs and you see the motor vehicles that some of them drive around with, you would see that these people aren't disadvantaged at all. In fact, some of them, I think, earn far more than any of us could ever dream of earning. And you can clearly see that by the vehicles that they drive. So it's a complicated situation. And the sad thing is those rich people exploit the poor to do their dirty work. So you very often have the poorest of the poor trying to get something there, to scavenge off these rich folk, to get some piece of land or just try their luck. And they are the ones that lose the most, because when we do an operation like that was done today, a lot of the materials that are used to build these structures are removed and demolished, and some of it is unfortunately, in some cases, I don't think they know where to find it, even though there is a process in place and they can get a lot of it back. But I don't think they have the means or the resources to really get it back. So, it's sad that people that really do have nothing are being exploited by the wrong people, and that government hasn't really done anything in many of these regions to really uplift communities, because I really think a lot of people are very desperate and that they simply have nothing to lose. I will even take it further. The interesting thing, Aaron's, that we can see, and this is where we're going to face a major problem in the future in South Africa. We are raising young criminals. We are raising youth that are growing up with the idea that they can simply take what they want, or with the idea that they can commit violence in order to get what they want. When we wanted to leave the scene this afternoon, after the police had left the situation or the scene, we were on our way out, and we suddenly saw on the one bridge going over the N1 close to where we did the whole operation, that a lot of youth were now throwing stones off the bridge and dropping big rocks off the bridge onto the N1, onto cars, and they were damaging vehicles. And what I realized is, I don't think Marnus, not one of those guys were older than 16, even 15. They're really young. And it's very sad to see that it's not one or two doing this, it's 150 or 200 kids doing this. So they're growing up with the idea that it's okay to act in that way, whether they're doing it for land or anything else. And that's a problem, because in years to come, those people, many of them, if they survive, there's a very good chance that they will fall back into delinquency. In other words, they will become involved in other more serious crimes. So there's a social or a moral fiber issue that needs to be sorted out.
And I see, just to take a break from the conversation, you have a lot of people wishing you well in the comments. Herman Suiger says, you guys did well with the land grab situation. Thanks a lot, Ian. And here you have another comment. Thank you guys for always helping our farmers and landowners and providing basic security and protection. Salute. And here we have the last comment also here. Big Mike says, well done, Ian. Salute. So yeah, no, it seems like did you get good feedback from the community members there today that you helped?
Yeah, so I think Marnus, I just want to say my name is being mentioned, but tonight I tried on social media to say thank you, but Marnus is the powerhouse of land grabs. I have never worked with someone that is so dedicated. Marnus, jy moet nou nie wind gat raak nie. I've never worked with someone that is so dedicated to sorting these problems out, because I think I drove Marnus nuts. He doesn't shave his head bald. It's me that makes him lose all his hair. So, I really put a lot of pressure on Marnus to make sure that we get a result. And every single time that Marnus has taken on a land grab case, we have won and we have protected property rights. So, I just want to acknowledge that. When it comes to the community, and once again, I'm going to refer to Marnus. They spoke with Marnus mainly, and obviously the rest of the legal team. But it was really humbling or great to see or hear some of the feedback that came from the community. They were really grateful. I don't think people always realize the danger that you're facing when it comes to land grabs. Often when we see land grabs, violent crime in that specific or that direct area increases quite a bit. We see that violence in general is on the increase, and we also have far more other dangers like veld fires, and especially in a rural area like that, it poses a threat to a lot of those people's livelihoods. Their businesses are run on those farms and on those plots, and therefore it really puts them in danger. So yeah, the feedback was fantastic, and especially about Marnus and then also the operational team today. And then I must also say that the feedback from our side in terms of the service and the utter dedication that we saw today from the SANDF, South African Police Service, and the Joburg Metro Police, and also the Midvaal Municipality and the Democratic Alliance in that specific area was phenomenal. I mean, Marnus, if I'm not wrong, if I'm not mistaken, it was the first time that we have seen that type of cooperation between different groups when it comes to a serious case like this. In fact, we struggled with the red ants. We really didn't get any feedback. There was always some problem, not answering a phone. We struggled with the sheriff. The sheriff was terrible. The service was absolutely terrible. And then suddenly, there was just this wave of fantastic service from the South African Police Service, the SANDF, Joburg Metro, Midval, and the DA. And everyone jumped in with AfriForum. And I think it should be a message that is how we can sort out these problems. Because if this is the way we can approach these types of issues, we have no other, there can be no other way, no better way to have success.
No, I think that's a perfect way of summing it up, Ian. And then Marnus, can you maybe just finish off by giving us an idea of what your actions are for tomorrow with the SONOP food packages?
Ernst, I'd love to go into it, but I'm going to refer it back to Ian. I'm going hunting tomorrow, so I'm leaving. I'm leaving Ian, but I think you'll be the best guy to answer.
All right, yeah. So I think this would be a good way to end off the conversation. Would be Ian, just give us an idea of what you're planning tomorrow.
Yeah, sure. So I think we've exhausted Marnus. He needs to go and rest and find peace for his soul. So that's why he's going to the bush. But from our side, we've been approached by a part of the SONOP community not far from Brits. And at the beginning of the lockdown, a lot of farmers really jumped in with fresh produce, extra, surplus commodities that they had, and they were handing this out and making sure that it was distributed. But unfortunately, with the massive economic pressure, that's not necessarily possible anymore. And part of this community approached us, and we've got the COVID-19 task team that we established with SAI, the Family Farmer Network, and obviously AfriForum. And great opportunity. Tomorrow we are distributing food for just over 300 families, and I think we're very privileged to be able to do that. And I think it's going to be a great way to start a cold weekend. We don't realize the impact that the drastic or the very, very terrible lockdown regulations have had on so many communities, and we now have an opportunity to at least take away some of the dire places or the dire situation that a lot of people are in, and this is our way of helping. So we'll be delivering that tomorrow afternoon, and it will then be distributed from there where we don't reach everyone, and to make sure that each of these families at least have food for the next 4 weeks. So it's not just 2 or 3 days worth of food. This is a month-long food hamper for every family for the coming 4 to 5 weeks.
All right, that's excellent, Ian. I think that not only will that provide people with food, but it will provide people with the hope that they need to go forward, because a lot of people are struggling all around us. But Jan, I see here in the comments, Dave Smith says, thanks, Ian, Ernst, Ian, and Marnus. Really enjoyed the discussion. It was excellent. Please, all of you, keep up the great work you're doing. Thank you very much, Dave. Appreciate it. And I see a sideline opinion says hit the like and subscribe button. Yeah, I don't really ask for that. So yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, thank you, Marnus and Ian, for taking time out of your day to come explain to us about your new website, which I can remind people is in the description. You can go check it out and also sign the petition. Even if you're not in South Africa currently, Ian says you can still sign the petition. So thank you very much, you two, for coming to chat tonight. I think it was very interesting. I enjoyed it. I learned quite a few new things. You dispelled a few myths around getting your firearm license. Maybe your website can help people now fight the good fight in regards to getting their legal firearms. I think that's a very noble cause. So yeah, and then lastly, thank you very much for everyone that tuned in. Thank you for all the excellent comments that you provided and all the feedback and questions. And also, if you like one of the guys said in the chat, if you like this type of content, you can subscribe. You can leave a like as well. It helps out the show. And I'm just going to highlight before we say goodbye a few things here in the chat. DeFredo Watcher says, thank you, gentlemen, for an interesting discussion. JC says, thanks, chaps. You have Icicle saying, quality people here. Thanks, Roykat. And then maybe just one last one. Sideline opinion says, thank you, Ian, Marnus, and Ernst from AfriForum for fearlessly fighting the good fight. Well, thank you very much for all your kind words. So yeah, all the links relevant links are in the description. You can also go follow Marnus and Ian on Twitter. Their links to their Twitters are also in the description. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers, guys. Have a good one.
Cheers.